What is going on, everybody? This is Jackson from JD Sports Zone, and today, welcome back, Mr. Mike McCarthy, now the AAA pitching coach for the Seattle Mariners, Tacoma Rainiers. Mr. McCarthy, thank you so much for taking time out of your day, out of your very busy schedule to come back on the podcast. How's everything been? And congrats on the new position.
No, I appreciate it, man. Things have been really good. We're excited to be here. We just got to Tacoma a couple days ago and about to start our season on Friday.
Yeah. I'm super excited to get you back on and talk about the Tacoma Rainiers season ahead in 2026. And I want to start off with my first question because I'm looking at the roster right now for the pitching staff for the Rainiers. You see guys like Dane Dunning who have a lot of experience at the MLB level. And then you see younger guys like myself, Sean Herman, Cole Wilcox. So I want to ask you this. What is the advice you give to the younger guys compared to veteran presence like Dane Dunning at the AAA level?
Yeah, each guy is different, right? One of the most important things, we take guys where they're at and we meet them in that space, especially the older players that have been around for a while. We say, like, what have you done? Where are you at today? And then how can we help you just take what you've already done and maximize that a little bit better? With some of the younger players, they're still learning their ways. They're learning themselves, learning how to be the best version of themselves. And so they get an opportunity to be mentored by the older players, which is huge. But then on top of that, we get to say, like, hey, what are things that they haven't quite developed yet in terms of skill set that we can help with? And so each guy you're meeting in their own space, just like you do with anyone in the world. You're trying to understand, like, what has their life experience shown them, and what do they still need to learn in life to get there. And so we do that same thing with players. We try to really help them move forward and be the best version of themselves they can be based on where they're at, not based on some idealistic version of them or some grandiose version, but like how do we move them forward 1% at a time every single day.
And that's great to hear the difference between a veteran presence and a young rookie, maybe at the highest level, at the minor league level, compared to bettering themselves to be the best version of the player or pitcher that they're leading to be. And that kind of leads, I guess, to my next question because you've had five previous organizations under your belt at the major league level, and you're in your sixth now with the Seattle Mariners. And again, congrats on the new position. I guess I want to ask you, as a pitching coach, how do you adapt to, I guess, the different cultures when it comes to organizations and, I guess, their mindset in developing players?
Yeah, it can be one of the hardest things to do, right? Is to understand the different cultures you're going to step foot into. Most important thing, and this is the advice David Ortiz gave me early on, is two ears, one mouth, right? Like listen, don't speak as much. And so one of the things I really try to emphasize, like we have a saying within the Mariners, and it's "Be you, align with us." And one of the most important things I've realized is like I try to really align with the organization, understand their values, understand their core principles, and then slowly start to bring myself out of that. But most important thing is like let people know that you see them, you understand them, you're trying to understand the culture, the community, the organization you're with, the people you're with, and the players, and then start to let them understand you a little bit more. But the more that we're inquisitive of the world around us, whether it's people, it's cultures, topics, traits, etc., we start to learn from other people much more, and that's when we become better versions of ourselves. And then the culture gets to become a better version of the culture based on our small influence to that.
And that's definitely great takeaways. And I feel like that can be applied to any situation. Walk into a room, not, I guess, put your personal preferences ahead, but what can you do to serve and adapt to the different personalities around you? Because again, you're in an organization like the Seattle Mariners, adapting to the new personalities in a new venture. So that's a great takeaway to definitely have. Now, I want to ask you about this because, the Tacoma Rainiers play a lot of tough competition within division. I guess, how do you put mindset into again young players starting off at the AAA level and what I guess I would say evolving their mindset at the AAA level, getting ready for the major league level.
Yeah, it's so the division we're in is the Pacific Coast League, and we're on the western half of it. So we play in places like St. Louis or Salt Lake City, excuse me, Las Vegas, Sacramento, Reno. So we're playing a ton of different elevations in different ballparks, dry air, more humid air like we have here in Tacoma. And throughout that process, you're going to play in different environments, different ballparks, et cetera. Whereas on the East Coast, you get pretty similar elevation up and down the East Coast. You may get a little bit different temperatures, but you are going to see the elevation changes, and that really impacts how ball flight occurs, both for the pitcher in terms of how the pitches move, but also for the hitter in terms of how far the ball goes, etc. So, teaching guys how to pitch inside, how to shorten swings, how to understand better sequencing, how to pitch to different locations in the zone, to mix their stuff, to understand how to change maybe an approach slightly each time through the order. All of this is the art of pitching that is blended with the science of pitching. And so when we look at like analytics and data, we want to utilize that and leverage that. We also want to keep that art of pitching that's influenced by that. And so as we bring those two together, that's really the art within the science.
I'm glad that you brought analytics up because I know the previous time we talked, you talk about being very heavy on analytics when it comes to developing your pitching philosophy to again new personalities around the clubhouse. So this kind of actually does lead to my next one. Have you, I guess, evolved your pitching analytics from from your previous major league organization experience to now with the game and the involvement of I guess baseball in general?
Yeah, I think throughout my career, one of the things that's gone on is I've always been inquisitive of the information. It doesn't mean you always have to be applying it, right? Just because we see new information doesn't mean like, okay, we've got to rush to apply it. It's not a rush to market mentality. But what it is if we understand the information, we now have a larger bandwidth of information to draw from. And as that gets bigger and our knowledge gets wider, we now get to select what pieces we need and understand how to braid those together to create the best messaging for the player or the best opportunity for skill acquisition or improvement for the athlete. If we limit ourselves by only knowing so much and we say, oh, I don't need to know this, I only need to know this, the problem is you've narrowed your bandwidth of knowledge. So there could be more information out there that's really impactful and beneficial. And so I think that when you look at like, my family and I has a 1966 Mustang, and it's a great car, right? But it's three-speed transmission, it's 289 engine. It's, not a huge, massive engine by any means, but it doesn't have a chip. There's no computer. There's no all-wheel drive. There's no ability to understand how to use new technology in it. Newer cars have more technology, but it doesn't mean that we have to apply all of it. But it can help evolve and make it more efficient, make it operate a little better. And really, you can't take a 1966 Mustang and expect to compete with modern day cars. I think the same thing for the player. It's still the common principles. There's four tires, internal combustion engine, a drivetrain, etc. The player is still the same. Grit, 90 feet, right? Throw strikes. All these things are the same principles. But how we apply it, we have a little bit better information to talk about those things to help a player get better and take bigger steps forward in the game.
I feel like that's always great advice, and I remember all the amazing analogies that you provided within the very first interview. And another great one with the 1966 Mustang, because you may have an older build, but you can still apply, I guess, new technologies and I guess new mindsets and physical adjustments to the player to make them still up to date and up to speed with the current
Mm.
level of AAA pitching. Now, I want to ask you more on in-game adjustments because I've interviewed our pitching coach here at the University of West Georgia, and I've gotten a lot of insight on how he implements certain pitchers in certain innings against different lineups, whether it's a righty, a lefty, a switch hitter. Who are some of the guys that you're looking to put out there from the starting rotation who can make a really big impact on the Rainiers this season?
Yeah, I think that across the board, we have a bunch of guys that can contribute in a lot of ways. And we're going to do our best to play matchups at opportunities that present themselves where we see fit. But for a lot of these guys, their long-term goal is to get to the major leagues. And they are one call away from going to the major leagues with the Seattle Mariners. And so with that, what we try to do is say, like, what is the best opportunity for this guy to get better as a major league player, not just to win the game today. We want to win the game today the best we can, but let's take that player, maybe put him in a more adverse situation because we know they're going to face that in the major leagues. And that's where you balance player development. Is like we want to win today. We also want this player to have the best opportunity to have success in the long run, right? Not just for the next few hours or for today's game or the next week, but what does he do for the next year? What does he do for the next 5 years? And that's a huge part of the polishing effect that you do here in AAA is like, how do we help this guy get just a little bit better at these certain circumstances? So we may put a left-handed pitcher in against four righties in a row, knowing that, hey, like we see a pocket of four righties, we got to get three outs. Let's go face these four righties and see how he does. We feel it's a good opportunity for him to develop that skill set instead of him facing the pocket of three lefties where he has the leverage matchup by handedness. We may see a righty that's going to come in against left, right, left in the middle of the order, but he may face that in the major leagues. Those are opportunities we want those guys to have that challenge and to struggle a little bit because with struggle comes opportunity for growth. So we're always looking for those opportunities. It's not every single time we do those matchups where they're disadvantaged, but we are going to try to blend those disadvantaged matchups because we know there's a long-term skill acquisition that's in our favor.
Mhm. And I feel like that's a great approach to have, not just to win the game in that moment for that specific pitcher, but also to develop their game. Because again, you said they're one call away from the major leagues, and especially in a very high, I guess, level Seattle Mariners pitching rotation, which in my opinion is the best in the American League. I would say the best in all of MLB to throw out there. So, that's it's great to hear that. It's the one step below, I guess, the major leagues and the big leagues for those pitching guys. And you talk about call-ups. Now, I'm looking at the level below AAA. What do you look in a double A pitcher or even a high A pitcher that you know is ready to be at the next level for AAA?
I think for most of those guys, it's an element of knowing their delivery, right? Being consistent in how they move, and it's being able to throw strikes. If we can do those two things, we tend to be really good. Now, there's a stuff component to that, like being able to throw with quality movement, multiple pitches, right? Ideally, we bring a guy in that has three pitches or more.
Mhm.
Um, Within the organization, I don't make a lot of those decisions.
Yeah.
But when I look at guys that are coming up that have success when they come from Double A to Triple A, those are the three things. They have knowledge of moving, their delivery and moving consistently. They throw strikes, and they have good stuff, right? Three pitches or more. That's when we see the majority of success. Now, some guys may throw a little bit harder. They have two pitches. Some guys may throw four pitches, and they rely on more mix and diversity of their stuff because maybe they don't throw as hard. But that consistency of how you move and how you throw the baseball, the ability to throw strikes, and then a stuff component is usually what we see as the biggest trends in having success at AAA and at the big league level as well.
And I feel like that's a great outlook to have, especially when having three or more pitches in your arsenal. Personally, I maybe have a fastball, and that's it. I can't throw a curveball. I can't throw a knuckle curve or slider to save
How
my
fast?
legs.
How
But
fast is your fastball?
I went to Dave and Buster's a week or two ago, and I was looking at the miles per hour, and it was maybe like a 72. I mean,
All
that's
right.
not it's not terrible. There's a reason why I'm again interviewing you on the podcast, and I'm not out on the college field over here. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a great outlook to have when it comes to the Arsenal and the way that they look at their delivery on the mound when it's coming to across the plate. So a great outlook to have. Now, I mean, are there any trends or techniques in pitching development that you're looking to implement this season as the game continues to grow? That I mean, it could be from biometrics to analytics to obviously the philosophy as the season goes along.
I think that one of the main things that stands out about the Mariners that we do really well is we focus on throwing strikes, right? We win 0 counts, we win 1-1 counts, and we win strikeout to walk ratio. When we do that, we have a tendency to have a lot more success because we put the hitter in disadvantage counts more often. When they're in disadvantage counts, we're in advantage counts. And so as we look at it through that lens, those are the big areas that I focus on is like, how do we help guys be in good counts? And then the second piece is throwing their best pitch most often. It's just an easy thing to say, like, hey, if I have a stock that is performing really well and has long-term trend lines that says it should perform well versus another one that's really volatile and has flashes and of good and flashes of bad, we want to ride out what's most consistent and start to work on this other one. The same with pitches, right? Just like people are working on a company to improve that, we want to work on those pitches, and it may take us a month, it may take us 3 months, and then we'll start to knife that in more often. But if we're a
Mhm.
stock investor, we really want to invest in a stock that's going to perform the best. The same thing with our pitchers, right? We invest in the pitches that perform the best, and then in the background, we're working on those pitches we need to do better with. So those are the areas that we tend to focus on and plan to focus on here in Tacoma.
Yeah, and I definitely look forward to that for the Tacoma Rainiers because you have a lot of star-studded young guys and older guys on the roster. Again, I was a big fan of Dane Dunning when he was over at Texas, so I'm glad to see him in the Seattle Mariners
Yeah.
organization. And not just developing their strengths, I mean their best pitches, but also their weaknesses and how we can elevate that for the next level. Now, I want to ask something about you personally because this is your first season in the Seattle Mariners organization. What originally drew you to the Seattle Mariners, and I guess getting in contact with the organization and getting hired as the new pitching coach over there?
Yeah, so it's easy, culture, right? Culture was the difference maker. And what I realized, I've been with multiple organizations, and when I think about where the best people I've met in baseball, they're right here with Seattle Mariners. The authenticity that people show, the just genuine nature, the desire to help each other, and this like unity of a team approach. There's a cohesiveness here that I haven't seen in other places, and there's really good people in other places, but this place really ties all together. And I see that in the way that we talk about core principles, the way that we talk about players, the way we talk about staff, the way that we invest in each other, the departmental crisscrossing that we do, right? Collaboration. I constantly see people trying to get that better. And as a player and a coach, but also as people, they're constantly saying, like, how do we become a better person? And when you hear them talk about their families, when you hear about them talk about their friends, what they do with their free time, they're constantly talking about positive things and make the world a better place. And so those things we can talk about hard skills all we want about knowledge of steam shifted weight, biomechanics, Magnus force and ball flight, ground force data, etc. But if we are really anchored to like who the people are and what's in your heart and soul every day, then we're missing the boat. Eventually, those hard skills fade away because we don't have the soft skills to land them. And so I think there is a balance here that is really unique to the Seattle Mariners, where they bring in the soft skills and they anchor to that and know that the hard skills will get on the field faster and more applicable than if we anchor to hard skills, but we don't have the soft skills to deliver them. And I think that's a piece that really stands out about the Mariners.
That's phenomenal to hear, and I think you're a perfect pitching coach to fit the Tacoma Rainiers. And having personable connections again as a former player in the Red Sox organization and in the major league organizations, that you've been through what they've been through. And it's great to hear that you're making those personable connections to there. And I truly wish you the best of luck with the Tacoma Rainiers. Now I want to ask you some fun questions. Some questions I didn't get to ask you in the original interview.
Yeah, yeah,
So, again, I've had conversations with a lot of former teammates of yours, like Ty Buttrey, like
yeah,
another fellow coach of yours over in Nevada, Mr. Jake McGee. And,
yeah.
I would love to ask you this. Do you have a signature move or saying you use with pitchers to motivate them?
To create motivation,
Yeah.
um, I wouldn't say. Oftentimes, I think guys are already very internally motivated, right? They're very self-motivated already. So you
Hmm.
oftentimes hear me say, like, smooth is fast, right? I think that that's one of the most important things, right? And I'll remind them, breathe. I'll yell at them, and they like smile because it sounds so ridiculous. Like, duh,
Hmm.
breathe. I have to live.
Yeah.
But we just yell, breathe, right? And then one other one we just watched, Jocko's Good, uh, his the YouTube video of
Hmm.
Jocko, and he talks about good and overcoming adversity, overcoming challenges. Like, hey, didn't get the new gear you wanted? Good, right? And he has this deep, like baritone voice where he's just in your face about it, and talks about like reset, re-engage, right? Focus on what you can control. And we are always talking about that. So guys, we had rain, it was 45 degrees out, windy rain, and guys are like, good. And they're just walking around loving it, bringing it. So those are oftentimes the sayings that I have for the most part. I just try to bring positive energy and dopamine to guys every day. And I find that I don't know that I've found too many players that aren't motivated. Most of them are already deeply, deeply motivated. It's just helping them filter out the noise,
Yeah.
the distractions, the internal tension, etc., and just make sure they enjoy it.
Yeah, I feel like, baseball is all fun. You have to have them enjoy it. And if, they're focused on the hard stuff and throwing a little, I guess, nice little motivational, let's say, liners, it will help them ease off and, focus on their game throughout the nine innings. So I think that's phenomenal here. Now, I want to ask you this because I did not ask you this in the first interview. I was making sure I didn't have to repeat my questions. But, you're now a pitching coach, and did you ever have a pitching coach that you tried to model your game after? Maybe ones that you had throughout the organizations that you've been through?
My coach in college, Bill Kernan, was a huge motivator. He worked with Augie Garrido at Fullerton, went through that program, went to Illinois with Augie before Augie went to Texas, and then Bill ended up bouncing around. And at the head coach at CSU Northridge in the 90s. And then in the middle of his career, went and got his master's in dramatic writing at NYU or no, Columbia, excuse me. Went to Columbia, got his master's in dramatic writing, and wrote plays for 10 years. And then came back to baseball, started coaching again. And he would tell these like incredible stories. You could tell he was in theater, right? He wrote plays on Broadway for almost a decade and then came back to baseball. But he had this like profound presence of the stories he would tell and like how engaged he would get. And it just brought out the best in all of us. We couldn't like we would sit there for an hour listening to him and he wouldn't I mean, you wouldn't see a guy even flinch to look at something else because they were so locked in on what Bill was saying. So I'm not a natural storyteller. I had oral cancer as a kid, and like so I had like minimal feeling on the side of my face. And so I don't think to speak. I tend to be more quiet by nature. But I realized that in order to convey something to somebody, to light them up, to get them going, to be a transformational leader, you really have to be able to be a storyteller and to
Yep.
engage your guys and light up and send energy into the room. And so I realized that that was something I had to do. And so over the last 20 years, I've really started to engage that feeling of how do I get guys excited to hear what you have to say. And so we had our first meeting yesterday with the team, and got guys fired up, and I had guys come up to me like, that's real, man. That's legit. Like I'm fired up to get going this year. And you could see the excitement for them. And so when I think about coaches I want to be like, I think of the hard skills that I have around biomechanics and ball flight, et cetera. But really it's those soft skills, the storytelling, the ability to like invigorate somebody and create this energy and excitement for what they're doing and to give them like a let's go, baby, come on. And the excitement to jump on the field because they know they're going to do something special. So,
I feel like Bill is a guy I definitely want to strive to be like. And I'm glad that you have takeaways from your old high school coaches, college coaches, and being a storyteller because you have to convey a message. Otherwise, it's not going to get stuck in their heads or they might have to hear it being repeated. So I think honestly, that's that's a great takeaway to have from previous mentors. Now, I don't know if you're a big. This it might seem like an off-brand question. But I don't know if you're a big Marvel guy. Do you pay attention to any Marvel movies?
not too much, but I know a little bit about it.
Are you a Disney guy at all?
Nothing crazy. I know the bare minimum, I'm sure.
All right, I'm gonna throw one final one. Star Wars.
But a little bit more, I'd say. Yeah.
Okay, so let's. I'm gonna stick with Star Wars. Let's go with Star Wars. If you can build a rotation out of Star Wars characters as a pitching coach, and you're looking at the movies, or maybe even a movie series that could be outside of Star Wars, who would you choose out of movie characters to build your starting rotation as a pitching coach?
Oh gosh. I mean, I think the anchor is going to be like Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? Like
Hmm.
he's going to be at the foundation of it. He's like
Hmm.
he's your number one that's going to go out and take the ball 30 times a year. He's going to be your Louis Castillo. That's going
Hmm.
to be really just the guy you go to for almost everything.
Hmm.
I mean, you've got probably your Luke Skywalker at the back end of it, right? Middle of the back end, but moving forward, like he's going this way, trending from, your fifth starter to like your fourth to your third, and he's continuing to progress and get better. Um, you think about, I guess Chewie's got to be in there somewhere, right? He's like your three guy. It's just going to stay right there. He's consistent, reliable. You lean on Han Solo, I guess, is your four, right? He's like has his moments of like special moments. You're like, wow, okay, that's pretty cool.
Yep.
Um, who would be your two? It's a great question. I don't know that I have a two on that one. I'm trying to think who you'd lean on. You can
I
tell I
mean,
don't know Star Wars.
I
Who would you say?
definitely think that Obi-Wan Kenobi is going to be your ace. I mean, I feel like he'd be a great locker room guy, a great veteran presence to have around the clubhouse.
Sure.
I'm a big Star Wars fan, so
Okay.
I definitely love the answers there. Now, I
You'll
guess
have to
going.
ask our you'll have to ask our major league pitching coach that question, Pete Woodworth. He's a huge Star Wars
Mm.
fan, so he would like that.
I'm definitely gonna have to reach out
Yeah.
here within the next feature. Now, one final question for you, Mr. McCarthy. Now, when at the end of the season, I know it hasn't started yet, but after the end of the 2026 season in Tacoma, what is like the biggest takeaway that you want to get from the season? Not maybe just from your pitchers or from the season or how just analytics go, but what's one thing you want to take away from it?
Then I made their lives better. I made the world a better place. Baseball's great, but like these guys work incredibly hard. They take time away from their families. They're trying to achieve at the highest level. And if I can help make them better people on and off the field, then I've accomplished something. So, if I walk away from this season knowing that the world's a little bit better place because this season existed because we played these games, but I got to impact this clubhouse of young men and help be a leader within this group, then it was a successful season by any measure.
And I feel like that'd be a phenomenal takeaway. And I think it's definitely going to be manifested and coming to fruition when it comes to your pitching philosophy. And always a great and joy to talk with you, Mr. McCarthy. And I hope to have you on for a third time in the future. And best of luck with the Tacoma Rainier season.
Happy to, brother. Thanks for having me on. Always a pleasure.